Welcome everybody. As we say, it's the post-round, so please join us. So it's a tale of two halves. We're going to talk about the MPH, the Masters in Public Health that we developed. It's an entirely online course. And what I'll do is I'll set the scene for the first part, and then my colleague Dionysis will come in and he'll tell you about the kind of stuff, the UX design. Yeah. Okay. So do I control this? Oh, I feel my power. So, in order to set the scene, I'm going to go through who we taught. Just warming up. Okay, so we're going to talk about who we taught, what we taught them, and how we taught them as well, just to set the scene, to understand how Dionysis did all the clever stuff. So, first of all, our students on this course, it's a trial course, it's the first time we've run it. And we have 40 students, and students from all around the world, from all 5 continents. So we've got representatives from everywhere. Yeah. So this means that we have like a lot of different cultures, a lot of different educational experiences. And I've blurred this out on purpose because the other thing is that we have a lot of different sort of like different perspectives, sort of like professions. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have dental technicians. We have lecturers, and we have people from pharmaceuticals as well. So there's a very, very wide range of sort of like professions in there as well. So we have to cater for a very wide range of people on this course. And the course itself, if you look at the course itself is 12 modules, and all the modules, as Richard will tell you, as we work on this course, are all very different. So we have research, kind of like research skills, we have statistics, we have a fundamentals course, which is basically history. We have epidemiology. So all the courses are very, all the modules within the program are all very different as well. Not only that, but the teaching staff are from all over the world, because one of the things we're trying to do is decolonize the syllabus. We're getting people from all over the world to do this. And I talked to a colleague yesterday, one of the program leaders, and she said that in the first term, just the first term alone, on the first 3 modules of the first term, we had 85 different teaching staff involved in that. And we're from 53 different countries. So it's absolutely massive, absolutely massive. So we have, and a lot of these people who are contributing were guest speakers from outside the UCL institution, from all places all around the world. So we had to somehow find a way of kind of structuring what we did to make sure they know what to do, and to make sure that students, got a sort of like homogeneous experience across all the modules. The modules which are very different. So, how did we do it? So, first of all, we needed something to pin things to, and the way that we pinned it to is we pinned it to the assessment. And we used backwards design, which is a Wiggins kind of like concept. And the first thing we looked at is we needed to make the courses very vocational. So we looked at what people needed. We looked at what people needed in their real lives and their everyday lives. So if you're going to be a public health professional, what do you need to do in the office? What do you need to do to produce things for your boss, for your colleagues? So that's where we started. And often it was evaluation reports, program reports, things like that. So people had to produce reports. And then what we did from there was we broke down into meta skills what we needed to do to produce this report. So we looked at, what do you need to do? We need to work with people, we need to work with colleagues, we need to work across disciplines. They need to presentation skills, so they need to present what they're doing, we need to like finances. So what we did is we broke down these meta skills and we made these into the assessment. So these became the assessment, and then we linked the activities to these assessments, yeah? We also had to work quite a lot on scaffolding, because as I say, there were people from lots of different disciplines. And a statistician didn't know anything about epidemiology and vice versa, so we had to make sure that the scaffolding was there. And a lot of the time, what we're doing is scaffolding through peer learning. So we've got, if the course is about epidemiology, we get all the epidemiologists, and we get, they share their experience, their lived experience with other people. So there's lots of peer learning in there as well. It's very important, so like they share their ideas themselves. Oops. And this is an example. So, because there are lots of different people in different cultures, we used a lot of sort of like discussion boards and used a lot of investigation. This idea here was like, how do you tackle different problems within your countries? How do you tackle homelessness? How do you tackle sort of HIV? And people would give examples from their own countries, and then there were discussion boards, They discussed, how effective they were and how it's supposed to be their culture, and whether there was any kind of like crossover culture barriers. And this is great. I've been on this one discussion forum with I think 40 students at the time. There was something like 1,500 posts, and it worked really well. And through this, we kind of built a community, and sort of people got quite close to each other. Sorry, maybe stay near the mic. Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry. And this is one example of something we did on the fundamentals course. So we talked about how we kind of like link things into the exam. So first of all, we wanted them to create an evaluation report. So we put them together in a group and we gave them a limited number of options. So you can write an evaluation report about one of three things. And in a group, they came together, they decided what they wanted to write. They assigned each other roles. Okay, so you need to research this, you need to present this, you need to sort of like write a good report. And they worked as a group. And that was the first summative assessment. After this, we gave them some time to reflect. They reflected on how they worked as a group. That was also a summative assessment, and they fed back how they did and how other people did in the group. From there, the scaffolding was removed a little bit, and they started to work individually. So they then gave an individual poster presentation about a subject of their choice in their context. And then finally, they got feedback from the lecturers on that. Then finally, they moved on to an evaluation report, which they wrote themselves. So it's like dismantling that scaffolding from group work to individual work to build their confidence as they go through the course. Yeah. And also, last one, you won't be able to read this, but to ensure that all the learning outcomes linked with all the assessments, what we did was we had an idea of constructive alignment. So every learning outcome we had was linked against an exam that they took. So it was very overt, it was very open, very obvious to the students why they were doing things and how it would help them in their assessment and how it linked to their everyday vocational life. Now a good bit.
Thank you very much, Mark. So now that we know a bit about the course and its learners, we want to discuss what drove us really to create this new course format. So my involvement started with this project when we had a discussion about the visual aspects of the course format they were asking for. And they were asking for a course format that was not supported by UCL and was not installed in any of our VLEs. So there were some alternatives, and I gave the alternatives to them, and they said, no, that's the only one we want. We don't want anything else. We only want that. So that insistence for a format that had known accessibility and usability issues, and also was not supported by UCL, and was not really matching the learning design approach that they were following, that was weird, and I really wanted to find out why. So I kept on grilling them, trying to understand what was wrong with everything else I was showing them. So I realized, to my surprise, that it was not really the way that the learning visualization was there, the learning experience was set out by the course format they were looking for. All they liked was the transitions and the animations that they had. This kind of modernness that was there, but even though it was not supporting what they wanted. So when I talked to them a little bit more about how they feel about Moodle, because Moodle is the VLE we're using, and what they think about Moodle designing without that course format, they said it looks like it was designed in the 1980s. There was no web in the 1980s. But anyway, and then they said it looks ugly. Well, I don't think that's true. So I asked, how would then the course format help you? And they said, well, it will add that freshness, that modernity. Well, I said, you need to add that with the way you set out your content. So I said, okay, I'll go out and see what else is out there, and maybe I can come back with another idea. So another surprise for me was that there are no guidelines out there on how to set out online programs, how to create program pages so that they help learning experience. And not only that, there is no research on how user experience and user interfaces specifically for online programs affect learning experience and really student engagement. So I started looking in other VLEs. Maybe there was another VLE out there that had a better idea. Maybe they had a better course format. But again, there was nothing. There was no course format that would match what they wanted and match the learning design approach that Matt had already talked about. So that meant that I had to go and create a new visualization, a new bespoke course format when UCL was saying, don't create anything bespoke, we cannot support it. We are not enough people to support, all the teachers. So you might be asking then now, why did I go down the bespoke way if it was not encouraged? So first of all, on the one hand, we have research that says that it's not only the user interface that we see in Moodle and what many people say clunky, ugly, whatever. It is not only that, it is also the skill used by the designers, the teachers, when they create the course itself. That's what is the learning experience about. It's how we put really the tools and the activities in the right order to create a learning experience. So yeah, putting it in the wrong order, obviously that would be catastrophic. We wouldn't have the student engagement we want, but also it's not only about focusing on learning design and making a good learning design, it's how we translate that into an experience, into the VLE we have. So we really want something very smooth, something easy, and to focus on learning, not to focus on navigating and orientating around the course. That would be catastrophic. The other big problem that I see with designers or in VLEs is that they feel that VLEs are gadgets that have specific buttons you can press, and that's all you can do. So that's okay, and that's fine, and you could use only those buttons that are available on the VLE and create something truly good and unique and a very good learning experience. However, that's not true. Every web-based VLE is a web platform, and it can host and it can do everything you can do on the web today. So it's not only about those buttons that are available on the VLE. It's everything you can see and you can view on the web today. You can do it on your VLE. There is an analogy I usually do when I try to explain how the VLEs and the web work together. So if you think that the web is this keyboard here, and all these buttons are all the things you can do on the web, I think of the VLE like someone has not unboxed the keyboard, they just plugged it in and it's still in the box, and they opened a couple of holes only so that they can only press those buttons. That's fine. Again, even with those 5, 6 buttons, you can do amazing learning experiences. But there is so much more we can do on the web. And it's not the VLE's problem that we cannot do it. It's just that there is only that many plugins we can use, and they still have limitations. So the guideline to avoid anything bespoke was my first red line. Obviously, it had to be bespoke, so I did cross that line a bit. But then I shouldn't create something completely new. I shouldn't start from scratch. I should start with existing functionality that was already there in Moodle, just bring it in a different way. And I had to use the staff familiarity with Moodle as a plus, as a bedrock, to create something that would still be in Moodle, it would still be what they know how to do, but then it would add something easy and pleasing to work with. And not only that, I wanted it, even in the first phases that we have it now, I wanted it to be very easy to use without or with minimal learning technology intervention. I mean, there are very few of us, so with so many teachers out there, we wouldn't be able to help them. So what I did was that instead of starting from scratch and using every web technology under the sky, I thought I will only do HTML. I will only use HTML to create whatever bespoke, and I will base it on the styling that was already available in Moodle. That was good in 2 ways. One, whatever I created looks the part in Moodle. It looks like it is part of Moodle. It looks exactly the same way. You cannot tell what is created by the buttons that are available and what not. And 2, if someone would need to go in as a learning technologist to help the teachers to fix something that's not working, they only needed to know basic HTML. They didn't need to know every web technology out there. They didn't be full computer scientists. Another very important aspect when setting out the design was that we needed the design to work in every device. As you saw, there are students all over the world. So yeah, while in this part of the world we have massive screens and very fast computers and so on, we cannot expect that from every learner. We have to think about every possible device they might have, every possible screen. So we wanted it to morph into whatever screen they had. And we couldn't assume that they have super fast internet. Again, we had to think twice before making it very heavy. And then another reason to have this mobile first design was that, as you heard, most of the learners are already working somewhere else. They are professionals, probably working full days, and then they study in the evening or in the weekend. So if someone would want to get the mobile out during lunch break and do a little bit of studying, we needed to support them, and we needed to make the learning experience equally well, working well on mobiles and on big screens. And finally, obviously absolutely central, we are creating a design that needs to enable linear learning that Matt was creating. And not only that, it needed to support it in a way that it would be unambiguous for a global audience. Now, that's a big one. Catering for a global audience on any kind of design is very, very difficult. If you see very big companies, they have different websites for different countries and different continents, because it's very difficult to create something that works well everywhere. So we only focused on two things. First of all, we wanted the learning path to work correctly and unambiguously for everybody around the world. With 3 different ways of reading, left to right, right to left, top to bottom, around the world, it would be very easy to make a mistake and think this is more important than that. That comes first, that comes second. And that immediately disqualified the course format they wanted. They wanted a course format that was agreed, that had multiple columns, multiple rows. What comes first, what comes second? You know, that would be very difficult, very easy to get lost. So we went for a presentation that would be very clear, very clean, top to bottom, 1 row at a time. That's the first topic you need to study, that's the second, that's the third. And the second aspect was about colors and about the theme. We had to think very, very carefully, because colors that we think of one thing here, it might mean something completely different. Or maybe we could put some image up there that would be offensive to some people. So we went with a style inspired by Andy Warhol's 6 self-portraits. That was one of his last works before he died. So what we did was we picked one abstract image and we used that for all the topics of the course. But because obviously one image for every week would be weird, we like the colors and we like to say, that image is week 1, that image is week 2. So we used Andy Warhol's duotone imaging. So we have the first image at the top that looks usually in full color, and then every other week, every other had a different set of colors, and all these colors, they followed throughout all the modules. So every module had a different main image, a different abstract image. So you knew when you saw the page, this is course X, you could immediately say, but also the colors, they followed the same path. So you know that's week 1, week 2, week 7. You could tell by the colorization really of the topic. So I think I did that already. So continuous improvement. How do we tackle this? Well, first of all, I want to start by saying that, yes, we have a very alpha version of this course format, but it's not ready yet. It's very far away from ready. We are still testing it. And so we are using what we call an agile methodology, where we work in small sprints of 2 weeks, and it is continuous improvement like that. So we start, let's say, when I first created this course format, we showed it to the course leaders and we got feedback. So that was the first circle. I built something, I planned something, I built something, I got feedback. And then again, plan, build, feedback. And that gives you continuous improvement across from the beginning of the project when you have something to even after you go live. So when we went live in October, I must say that the version we had so many issues. There were so many issues that were not working, but obviously we didn't have time to fix everything. So yes, we were live, but there were problems with different screens. There were some screens that were not working very well. Some had very small letters and so on, but we kept on working in this sprint fashion and we kept on fixing. And as we were fixing, we were preparing for term 2 and term 3, and we were backporting these fixes back to modules of term 1. So they are all have a uniform way of looking and working. And the way we do this is by using what we call progressive enhancement. So we started with the very basics of what Moodle can do. And then on top of that, we started adding functionality. So one of the things we've done, which unfortunately is not obvious from this screenshot, is that we changed the way that breadcrumbs work in Moodle. Moodle is very good at creating a full linear course. But if you want to say that what you see here is the course contents, and then I have something else that's about assessment, let's say, you cannot create this hierarchy in the breadcrumb. So we augmented the breadcrumb, and we allowed this to appear in the breadcrumb to give this hierarchy, this view that we can very easily connect to our brains in the system. So if for whatever reason we have a learner that has a very old browser that cannot support all these new enhancements, all is not lost. They will still get the basic version that is in Moodle. They will still be able to study. They will still be able to progress. They might not get the best experience, but they will still get a good experience that will work for them. So is it easy to use and apply? As I said, this is a very early prototype. But again, one of the main design features that I wanted to add is that it will be very easy to apply to multiple modules in a click of a button, if that would be possible. And we are already there. Someone with no web technology experience, they can apply this format. What we're using behind the scenes is that we're using the one topic format in Moodle, which is quite common. We don't have the tabs, as you see, we got rid of the tabs, but it is still there, and we are building on top of that. So it's very easy. You set up your module as one topic, couple of clicks there, that everybody knowing Moodle can do, and then you restore this backup, that is the template. And you can start from there, adding your images, adding everything. Everything with the editor, no need to know any HTML. So yes, it is really easy to apply. And it is also possible to apply not only to Moodle that we're working with, it can be applied to any web-based VLE. And the reason is very, very simple. I've used very simple HTML. I've used web text, headers, images, and links. So I think every web-based VLE can do that. Or if yours cannot do it, you probably need to change it. But again, that's the idea. The idea is that if it's a web-based VLE, it can do all these things. So yes, you could apply this in your VLE. Obviously, in UCL, we use Moodle. That's our chosen learning VLE. So what we want to do next, because we had a very warm welcome from departments, faculties, everybody really that has seen this, they want to apply it to their courses. And unfortunately, I have to say no all the time, because we don't have enough people to support it as it is now in this very early stage. So our expectation is that after we get feedback from some more courses and some more modules we have applied it to, we are going to go back and create a course format that will be based on this template. So it would really be a fork, a copy of probably of the one topic, where on top of that it will be this functionality. And really my aspiration is that it will become the default UCL course format, because I think it is very important to have a unique look and feel across all programs and modules in the university, so that it is distinguishable and someone can see the course and say, yeah, this is from UCL, I can see it looks the same like everything else. And I think this is something we need to do for online learning. As UCL spends millions of pounds to create amazing architectural buildings with rooms that pretty much all look the same because you are in UCL, so it looks like it is UCL. We need to do the same for online learning. We need to create experiences for online learners that will never meet face-to-face, that when they enter whatever space they are in, they will say, yeah, this is UCL. I know my way around. I have seen something like that before. And I think you need to come and, yeah.
So very quickly, this is the very quickly. This is the feedback from the first day. So the first one there is satisfaction on teaching room. So 93, 94, 93% say they're excellent or very good. And the second one was context. So how easy is this to apply to your context? And the interesting one is this one here, Understood 57. And this is the fundamentals course. And this is the course where we really pushed the community building. This is the course where we really pushed the sort of like, sort of like group assessment. And we think that people really like this kind of surface learning where they know what to do. But we're actually pushing them to sort of like communicate with each other. That's a bit more difficult. Now to think about that. There's a bit of back on that. Another thing we found as well, last slide now, is that in the first term, we had a very communicative course and 2 non-communicative courses, and we found that the communicative parts of the course were really, really well used. Second term, everyone was using communication, so the use of forums really went down, the use of discussions really went down. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to have a look at modular interoperability. So we're going to make sure that we have like showstopper discussions and investigations, and we're going to disperse them around the entire kind of like term to make sure that you don't have 3 very sort of like heavy hitting things in 1 week. So that's what we're looking at next. I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah, okay, fine. Thank you for that. But first of all, any questions in the room? We can have 1 or 2 questions. Anybody got any observations or questions or comments or indeed queries about things? I'll stand closer so people can. Did anything come in online? Let's. Is it? Can we? Yeah. No, don't show me that without my glasses. I can't. It'll be looking at the wall. So we've got, have you developed a house design style for icons? I think you were touching upon that there was that design style. So I think that's there. And then there's the point about accessibility. That was one thing that occurred to me. But I mean, is that something that you formally taken into account as well as informally, the accessibility guidelines? I'm very familiar, being at UCL myself, about that.
Definitely, and in fact, with the colors, I'm also colorblind.
Okay.
And so I can immediately be affected by green color, big things like that. So this is something that is central to the way we have chosen colors. We've chosen usually outside the spectrum, and we are testing them also.
And I've got a question here: how do you ensure consistency in design? Certainly, I got the impression that there was a consistency in design. Was that something that was there? Are there any other questions higher up? I think we might have time for anything that was going on there. I think there are some task activities that are not great UX experience on mobiles. Yes, depends on the activity and level of attention needed by the students. So need to be transparent with students about the affordances of different devices and how we expect it. And I think a number of colleagues who might be experienced in this area anyway, but probably do that anyway. I'm just thinking about time, but a couple of things that struck me. Some notes I made. First of all, the global scale that you had there, and the point you were making, Matt, about clearly the differences. You've got different cultures, you'll have different expectations, you'll have different views on how things should happen. And certainly what I saw there was, and you said it was almost, we're trying it and see what happens, and it didn't necessarily work straight away, and you were changing it, which I think is, when you need to put something out, that's what we do. If we don't get the opportunity to pilot, we have to go with it. But clearly you're learning the lessons there. The one thing that hit me there about and it's only the way that I understand it, so let me put it this way, colleagues, it's what I call the user experience is to do with, I used to work for the Open University a million years ago, and we would have residential schools. And by Friday evening, you knew that this was working. You knew that it was working. And then you'd get the evaluations on the Sunday. Oh, okay. And what it would be, the content was good, but the coffee was cold. The mattress was a bit lumpy. And I think, it's that attention to detail for the user experience. And certainly I've experienced it myself, both as somebody studying online and also in trying to design and deliver myself, that our content is great. We know it's good content, but it doesn't quite then translate because they're unhappy with, what do we refer to as Moodle? The clunkiness of Moodle. It'd be interesting to see what's happening in the summer. Is it Moodle 4 we're getting in the summer? Yeah. There's going to be the change. So, user experience. Yeah, we have the great content, but if it doesn't work, if the user, if they can't engage with it, access it, deal with it in their own part of the world. So, colleagues, allow me to thank Matt and Dionysis on